Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 25. The residents of Varanasi become Vaishnavas. Text 34. Shruti Purana Kahe Krishnera Chet Shakti Vilasa Taha Nahi Mani Pandita Kare Upahasa. Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
Taha nahi mane pandit kare upahas. Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
Taha nahi mane pandit kare upahas. Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
Taha nahi mane pandit kare upahas.
श्रुति पुराण कहे कृष्ण चित्त शक्ति विलास.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
तथा नहीं मानी पंडित करे उपहास.
श्रुति पुराण कहे कृष्ण चित्त शक्ति विलास.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
ताहा नाही मानी पंडित करे उपहास.
श्रुति पुराण का है कृष्ण रचित शक्ति विलास.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
ताह नाहे मानि पंडित करे उपहास.
श्रुति पुराण कहे कृष्ण चित्त शक्ति विलास.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
नहीं मानी पंडित करे उपहास.
Mataji.
श्रुति पुराण कहे कृष्ण रचित शक्ति विलास.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
ताहा नहीं मानी पंडित करे उपहास. श्रुति पुराण कहे कृष्ण रचित शक्ति विलास.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
ताहा नहीं मानी पंडित करे उपहास. श्रुति पुराण कहे कृष्ण रचित शक्ति विलास.
Shruti Purana kahe Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas.
ताहा नहीं मानी पंडित करे उपहास.
Shruti Purana kahe.
Shruti Purana kahe.
The Vedas, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra, and the Puranas confirm Krishnera of Lord Krishna, Chit Shakti Vilas, activities of spiritual potencies, Taha Nahi Mani, not accepting that, Pandita Kare Upahas, so-called scholars play jokes without perfect understanding. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The Vedas, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra and the Puranas all describe the activities of the spiritual potency of the Lord. If one cannot accept the personal activities of the Lord, he jokes foolishly and gives an impersonal description. Purport. In the Vedic literatures, including the Puranas, there are full descriptions of the spiritual potency of Krishna. All the pastimes of the Lord are eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, just as the form of Krishna himself is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Satchidananda Vigraha. Unintelligent people with a poor fund of knowledge compare their temporary bodies to the spiritual body of Krishna, and by such foolishness they try to understand Krishna as one of them. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 11, points out that foolish people think of Krishna as one of them. Not understanding his spiritual potency, they simply decry the personal form of the absolute truth. Foolishly thinking of themselves as jnanis, cognizant of the complete truth. They cannot understand that just as the material energy of the Lord has a variety of activities, the spiritual energy has variety also. They consider activities in devotional service the same as activities in material consciousness. Under such a wrong impression, they sometimes dare joke about the spiritual activities of the Lord and his devotional service. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to be back in Sri Radha Landaneshwar Temple after 1 year. And it's also Sunday morning, so nice to see so many of you here this morning. The pastime that is currently being discussed here is from the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 25. The residents of Varanasi become Vaishnavas. Text number 34. We'll repeat the translation. Please repeat after me. The Vedas, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra, and the Puranas all describe the activities of the spiritual potency of the Lord. If one cannot accept the personal activities of the Lord, he jokes foolishly and gives an impersonal description. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his travels has reached Varanasi, which is the headquarters, the capital city of the Mayavadis. He has been criticized severely by the Mayavadi sannyasis because he chants and dances with the common population. He doesn't seem to be engaging in the activities that the Mayavadi sannyasis consider the duties of a sannyasi, which is to study the Vedanta Sutra, to perform severe austerities, and to avoid what the Mayavadi sannyasis consider to be sentimental activities, like chanting the names of Krishna in Sankirtan, especially along with other ordinary common folk. So the Mayavadi sannyasis were considering him to be a sentimentalist and someone who is not following the rules and the dharma of a sannyasi. Particularly since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had accepted the order of sannyas, he had taken the sannyas diksha from Srila Keshav Bharati, who was from the Bharati Sampradaya, which is one of the sampradayas of the Shankara school, which means the impersonalist school. So they considered that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should therefore conform to the activities and the duties of sannyasis from their line. But apparently, from their point of view, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was deviating. Some of the people in Varanasi, specifically those who were the associates and devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, didn't like it at all. Particularly one of them, who was a Maharashtriya Brahmana, he was so pained to hear this criticism that he resolved to settle it once and for all. And he invited these sannyasis, led by the chief Mayavadi sannyasi of Varanasi, whose name was Prakashananda Saraswati. He invited them to his house for prasadam. And he also invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Mahaprabhu received this invitation from this Brahmana, he had just been hearing from his other devotees narrations of how the Mayavadi sannyasis had been criticizing him in Varanasi. So the Brahmana's invitation came just at the perfect time. And Mahaprabhu wanted to deliver these Mayavadi sannyasis as well. Because after all, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He is none other than Sri Krishna, who has come in the guise of a devotee. he has taken the sannyas order of life to preach Krishna consciousness and to bring everyone on the path of pure devotional service to Krishna. In Jagannath Puri, in Navadvip, and all over during his travels, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had brought unlimited number of people into the fold of ecstatic devotional service to Krishna by the process of chanting the holy names of Krishna, particularly the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But this one large group had still escaped his net of mercy, and that was the Mayavadi sannyasis. So he thought, now the time has come for me to deliver them, because my devotees have glorified me as the most munificent, the most merciful incarnation of all. And therefore the time has come now for me to live up to that expectation. I have delivered everyone, but these Mayavadis have escaped. So now I should capture them in the net of pure love of Krishna. So with this resolve in his mind, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the invitation of this Brahmana. At that session, he took a very humble position, and the Mayavadi sannyasis were very impressed with the appearance and the humility of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He sat in a little corner at a lower level, at the place where the feet were washed before entering into the premises. In a very gentle way, Prakashananda Saraswati rose from his seat, being attracted by the effulgence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he guided him, escorted him to sit in their midst. And he did this seva for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally. And because of this little personal seva rendered to Mahaprabhu, because of that little affection and humility shown with respect to Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu's mercy would very soon overflow his heart and also the heart of all his associates. And then the Mayavadi sannyasis questioned Mahaprabhu about what they considered to be his improper actions. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, and explained so convincingly with philosophical explanations that they were all convinced, and they all became devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and of Lord Krishna. So that caused a sensation in Varanasi. Formerly, these same sannyasis had been criticizing Mahaprabhu badly, and now they all became his followers. And they accepted a philosophy that seemed to be so much at variance with what they were espousing earlier. So in this series of verses, we hear one of the chief associates and disciples of Prakashananda Saraswati, who was also as learned as Prakashananda Saraswati himself, glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, glorifying the process of devotional service and the conception of Krishna consciousness and the understanding of the Vedanta Sutra as taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, this is supreme, this is the correct philosophy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained things so clearly and so nicely. On the other hand, the philosophy that we have been following is actually quite wrong. It's just a jugglery of words. It appears to be so sophisticated and so intellectual, but actually it's full of defects, it's full of faults. So in the course of decrying the philosophy that he himself was following earlier, he mentions this, he speaks this verse. The Vedas, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra and the Puranas all describe the activities of the spiritual potency of the Lord. if one cannot accept the personal activities of the Lord, he jokes foolishly and gives an impersonal description. In other words, what he's saying is that to believe in the impersonal conception of the Lord is foolishness. And to believe in the personal descriptions and activities of the Lord is a sign of good intelligence. It is a sign of good spiritual knowledge, of good spiritual realization. And that one who cannot accept that the Lord is a person automatically, foolishly starts making fun of the Lord's transcendental activities. And I actually have experience of this. I have narrated this sometimes in the past, but many years ago, as a new devotee, I was out to distribute Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam on the streets in a particular city in eastern India. And I happened to see this auditorium where the lecture by a very famous Mayavadi sannyasi had been organized. And I had of course read what Srila Prabhupada had said about Mayavadis. But still I was curious to know what he would say and why it was that Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were so severe in their criticism. So I went in anyway and sat down. It was an air-conditioned auditorium. The auditorium was full. And he was on the auditorium and he was on the stage pacing up and down. He wasn't seated on a chair or an asana like this, and neither was he standing at one place and speaking. He had a handheld mic and he was walking back and forth and back and forth. And in the course of discussion, he was speaking about, the topic by the way was, you are the whole. The whole meaning W-H-O-L-E. Right? That means you are the complete whole. In other words, what he wanted to say was you are God. Yes, you are the whole. So that was the topic of the lecture. And he was speaking quite energetically about how it is that we are the whole. And then he said, there are some people, and now I can't quote verbatim because it was almost 28 years back or 30 years back, something like that. So anyway, but I do remember this very graphically, his movements, and his one part that I remember graphically was, he said, there are some people who believe in Vaikuntha, that there is a spiritual world where there is God who engages all kinds of in all kinds of activities. But I ask you, he said, what would they be doing there? And he began to speak in a rather, shall we say, not just impolite way, but an insulting way. And he was also mocking, and he was actually acting it out. Now I can't do that because I'm not such a good actor, and also because I'm seated on the Vyasasana. So to preserve the dignity of the Vyasasana, and because we're in front of their lordships in the temple, I will try to make the depiction as dignified as possible. But still I have to maintain the flavor of what he said, to give you an idea. So he said, you go to the spiritual world and you engage in activities with God. What would you do? You will be sitting in front of God. God will be looking at your face, you will be looking at God's face, and you will keep on looking at each other's face. And then what will you do after that? He said a few more colorful things that were quite offensive, which I will not repeat. So he said, you just sit and face each other. So what do you do then? So he made a joke of it, the whole thing. And there were a few peals of laughter from some people in the audience. And so that was it. That was more than I could take. I walked out of the thing. Then I understood. So when he mentions here that Kore Upahas, they make fun of the personality of God and of His transcendental activities because they don't understand these things. I was reminded of this incident. It's actually like that because these sannyasis themselves in Varanasi were also doing the very same thing. So that sannyasi was also following in the footsteps of these people. He was from a similar sampradaya. He was from the Saraswati sampradaya, one of the sampradayas following Shankaracharya. So the point is that they just cannot, with their limited understanding and realization of spiritual life, imagine that there is a spiritual world full of variegatedness, full of variety, where the Supreme Lord exists as a person, where there are many other devotees who live along with Him, and they have their paraphernalia, and they engage in transcendental activities that are full of bliss, that are eternal, full of knowledge. There is no trace of material contamination in that abode. And therefore the activities of the Lord and His devotees are 100% pure and spiritual. As is mentioned here, Krishna Chit Shakti Vilas. Chit Shakti means the spiritual potency. Vilas means enjoyment. So the pastimes of the Lord and His devotees in the spiritual world are manifestations of the Chit Shakti, the spiritual potency. They are not manifestations of the Maya potency that we find in this world, the Mahamaya Shakti of Krishna. The activities that we do are under the domain or jurisdiction of the three modes of material nature, which is under the control of Mahamaya. So we are under illusion. Our activities cannot be called pastimes or Lila. But in the spiritual world, all the activities are Lila or pastimes. There is no question of the material law of karma or the three modes of material nature influencing those activities in any way. So this is the Mayavad understanding. But because it comes across so frequently in our books, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Prabhupada's purports, in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita, in his lectures, and since most spiritualists in the world, those who are not Vaishnava, have either willfully or by default a Mayavad understanding of spirituality. So it is important for us to know what exactly this Mayavadi philosophy is. Now it is a big subject, and these Mayavadis, sannyasis, philosophers, they have written tomes and tomes of books of literature, and they are extremely intelligent and very incisive in their analysis. They split words, they analyze things, the word jugglery can be bewildering even for an advanced devotee. And therefore Mahaprabhu has cautioned, Mayavadi bhashya shunile hoy sarvanash. That if one hears this Mayavad philosophy, then one's devotion will be ruined. One's spiritual consciousness will be ruined. So it's so important for us to know what exactly this Mayavad philosophy is. So let me try to summarize the whole Mayavad philosophy for you in 4 points. Now, my request to you is to know what these 4 points are, and after this class, when you go back to your respective places, whether it's the ashram or you live in the home outside, you tell this to others. Don't tell them that this is right. Tell them this is the wrong philosophy. This is what the Mayavadis say. And then I'll take these 4 points and try to briefly counter them, because a very lengthy exposition of Mayavad and a lengthy countering of that philosophy will take a lot of time. Okay, so point number 1 in Mayavad philosophy is actually the word Mayavad itself means philosophy of Maya. So we don't need to use the word philosophy after Mayavad. But just to make everybody understand that it is a philosophy, we use the word Mayavad philosophy. Because the very word Vad means philosophy or doctrine or argument. And Maya means illusion. Maya, that which is not. So Mayavad is a philosophy of illusion. In what way? Let's see. So point number 1 of Mayavad is that the absolute truth is spiritual light, that is impersonal, unlimited, devoid of qualities and devoid of activities. Number 1. Number 2, in other words, they don't believe that the absolute truth has any form or is a person. They only believe in that impersonal light, spiritual light that is all pervading. Number 2, they say that impersonal Brahman, that supreme absolute truth, gets fragmented and appears, although it remains there, what is remaining there as Brahman remains there, but the living entities in this world, in the material world, are actually fragmented from that original Brahman. They are directly the Brahman, the supreme Brahman. In other words, they say the living entities are God. But they are covered over by illusion, by Maya, and therefore they do not understand that they are God. Once that illusion is removed by the process of knowledge and meditation and austerity, then there is no individuality left anymore. And one merges back into the Brahman from which one was before. So point number 2 means that all the living entities are God. What was the first point? That God is impersonal spiritual light, devoid of qualities, devoid of attributes, devoid of activities, and He is unlimited. Point number 1. Point number 2, that God, that impersonal spiritual light appears within this world. Actually, all the living entities here are also that same God. But under the influence of Maya or illusion, they have forgotten their own Godhood, their wholeness, that they are also whole. And when they remove that illusion by following the process of cultivation of knowledge, speculative knowledge, etc., then they realize they are God. And they are Brahman once again. So the individuality is extinguished. They say that individuality of the living entities is an illusion. You and I are individuals, we understand that. But the Mayavadis say our individuality is an illusion. There is no such thing as individuality. We are all one. We are all that supreme Brahman.